Welcome, beautiful friends, to our One Who Wakes dialogue on the most spirit. I was just talking about this. I was just talking about getting a little choked up when I start channeling love. The most cherished special relationship, and you don't even know it. For those of you who are Course in Miracles students, Yeshua talks a whole lot. He's called Jesus in the Course in Miracles. Same dude. You can call him anything you want. Just call him. But he talks about special relationships a lot. Those are the relationships that we made that were the substitutes for love, where we went and we make them with all kinds of people and things. But I'm going to reveal to you the one that most bursted my bubble when Yeshua told me. I was like, oh, I wouldn't have seen that coming. So you might not see it coming, so we'll see how that goes. I'm really excited that we're going to have live music tonight. Isn't that cool? It's my joy to introduce you to my friend Jen Stackpole. She did all the music for our retreat, and those of you who were there, it was an incredibly powerful experience. And for her, it was one of those things where she recognized how the Spirit had been moving in her life in music, but it all came really, really clear at the retreat. It's pretty powerful stuff, wasn't it? So feel free to share about that. But she's going to sing for us tonight. Her first song is Still Attached, but you fill us in.
So hi, everybody. Like John Mark said, my name is Jen, and I'm completely honored to be here. As John Mark said, I did the music for the retreat back in May, and it was profoundly life-changing experience. First, the retreat itself and being able to do the music, because I did recognize while I was there about how Spirit had informed every line of every song the entire time. And although I had felt before like I had been an open channel for songs to come up and everything else, I started to realize that every song had its own life, and it had its own journey, and it had its own place. There were songs that had been written years ago, back in 2005, 2006, that I'd performed at the retreat, and that was their home. That was where they belonged. They belonged with the messages that John Mark was giving at the retreat and what we were learning and what we were experiencing. And it was so completely profound because it was everything was perfect. And it was at that point throughout that weekend that I realized that I'm just a vessel. That really is truly every minute of every day. That is what I do. I wake up and I just breathe into it and just please inform me and just fuel and just go through me and just let love lead the way. And John Mark had asked me something very pointed at the retreat. I was struggling with some kind of a concept, of course, and the ego was having its say about it. And he said to me, it's obvious that you have let love guide the way with your music the entire time. So why would you not do that with every other aspect of your life? What part of you still thinks that Jen can do it and can do it better than love has informed your songs and can make the rain, make the grass grow and the sun come out, and it shifted me so suddenly, and I went, oh my gosh, and it changed everything. So before that shift, this was a song that I had written called Still Attached, and it was funny because it was inspired by someone else and their relationship, and when I actually finished writing the song, I realized that this was my life story over and over and over again, about attaching myself to someone else and to a relationship, thinking that it was going to give me some kind of a connection, some kind of spirit, some kind of life. And then what I did is I smothered the relationship and I attached myself so strongly that any life that was there was gone. And then, of course, the relationship ends, the other person moves on, and here I am feeling like I'm completely alone and I have no life left. And that's basically what this song represents. So this is called Still Attached. I hope you enjoy it. Long flowing hair and a bright, bright smile. She's everything that I could never be. I'm such a fool, I thought we were meant to last. She's everything that I could never be. Don't you remember the ghost from the past I helped you run from? You look confused that I'm so hurt, I feel so shattered. I was the one you said you'd always give your heart to, but you left me alone, and I'm still attached to you. Yeah. This isn't fair, you've moved on so fast. Didn't I mean anything to you? I'm just a fool, I thought we were meant to last, but I didn't mean anything to you. Don't you remember the ghost from the past I helped you run from? You look confused that I'm so hurt, I feel so shattered. I was the one you said you'd always give your heart to, but you left me alone, and I'm still attached to you. Baby, someday I'll get over you. Until then I'm stuck with this view of you and her, that image in my mind of you with her. Someone make me blind. You and her, please free my mind. Don't you remember the ghost from the past I helped you run from? You look confused that I'm so hurt, I feel so shattered. I was the one you said you'd always give your heart to, but you left me alone, and I'm still attached to you. You left me alone, and I'm still attached to you. You left me alone. Help me, I'm still attached to you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Absolutely beautiful. It was an incredibly powerful experience for us as the retreat, as the flowering of her music and the spiritual connection through it all really blossomed, and we all got to share in that as we did tonight. Thank you. You can check out more of her stuff at facebook.com/Jen Stackpole Music. She's got a lot of great stuff, even a cool holiday album. This is the picture from her holiday album. Okay, so here we go. Who feels like this guy with the little puzzle piece? Isn't that really what we've all been doing? Our whole lives is trying to figure this thing out and put the puzzle together. Those of you who are Course in Miracles students, that actually don't have my book over here, but you got that thing, and you're like, damn, I thought it was the 1,000-piece puzzle. Now it's like a 10,000-piece puzzle. That the confusion that starts to come up when we get on any spiritual path is like, whoa, because it's pretty much telling us all the pieces that we thought we had in place aren't in place. They might not even be the right puzzle. So it can get really, really confusing, but this is kind of the equivalent of the thinker. You know the statue where the guy's thinking, and there's that adage, I think, therefore I am. Yeshua corrected that one for me a long time ago. I think, therefore I think I am. But it's not actually the act of thinking that is the validation of who we are. It's actually part of the problem. But nonetheless, what are special relationships and who has them? Jen's song clearly was talking about physical relationships. Haven't we all had special relationships with other beings where we've expected them to fulfill a part of us? And we seek special relationships in way after way after way after way. And it's not just people. We do it with food. I did it with pizza. We do it with, we do it with sitcoms. We do it with TV. We do it all kinds of things. We tend to call special relationships coping mechanisms. And we tend to use one special relationship to cope because we can't cope with another special relationship. So we just run around from coping to coping to coping to coping, and all these special relationships, hoping if we have enough of them, they'll finally add up to a total of one. But of course they never do. So who has the special relationships? Only our ego has the special relationships, period. The Spirit's one, it's whole, it's all that is. If it was a special relationship, it's with itself. Our one infinite self. But all our special relationships arose when we made substitutes for love, when we perceived ourselves apart and thought ourselves needing to be fulfilled in some way. So we're going to talk a little bit about special relationships tonight. Many of you are aware of them. If you're a Course in Miracles student, you've already been looking at, wow, I have a special relationship with my spouse. I give them the power to affect my state of being. Or I have a special relationship around politics. I let that fulfill me or alternately give me anger, and I put all kinds of energy into it. So we've been looking at lots of special relationships and desiring to let them go because, that comes up, oh, there's this thing called special relationships. We'll immediately go, well, shit, I got to get rid of those. I want to make all my special relationships go away, and I want to replace them with what he calls in the Course in Miracles, the holy relationship. How cute is that? So I would go to Cindy. Cindy, we've had a special relationship. And I was thinking, by the way, it's all your fault. But would you please have a holy relationship with me now? And really think that was actually seeking a holy relationship. Well, let me just tell you real quick. There's one holy relationship, and it's father-son, father-daughter, universe, creator, created, whatever you want to call it. That's the one holy relationship. So that's the only place where we find true wholeness. It's the only place we'll find peace and fulfillment. So every substitute that we make for it, anything that you allow, a stain on a blouse, if you allow that to disturb your peace, you've made a special relationship that shirt isn't supposed to get a stain on it. And if it does, then something's gone wrong and the universe has gone a kilter and, oh shit, something's gone wrong. So anyway, we're going to go a little bit into special relationships, but I'm going to reveal to you the most special one, and very, very likely that you don't even know what it is. I was clueless as a bag of rocks when Yeshua revealed it to me, and it hit me like a dang freight train. Shuddered all the way down to the depth of my whole belief in separation. So here we go, honey.
The Holy Spirit asks only this little help of you. Whenever your thoughts wander to a special relationship which still attracts you, enter with Him in an holy instant, and there let Him release you. He needs only your willingness to share His perspective, to give it to you completely. And your willingness needs not be complete because His is perfect.
So there's an awful lot in the Course in Miracles about undoing our special relationships. When we have thoughts or when we see our energy moving in a direction that we know this is an old habitual pattern, we can go to the holy instant, which is simply to be still and still your mind and allow love to inform you. Say, I see this pattern. I don't want to keep this anymore. I want to open and be informed and heal this and let it go. We've done a lot of dialogues around this methodology with the clean slate and the thousands of scraps of fear. But the point is, we can't undo our special relationships. We want to. We think, well, gosh, I made them, so I have to get myself out of them. The point here is that's really the Holy Spirit's job, and the Holy Spirit does that perfectly if we'll get out of the way by simply no longer desiring to hold on to them and giving that over and letting it be corrected, not thinking we have to actually make the corrections. Because that's a little favorite trick of the ego, then it gets an awful lot of energy in going in there and trying to fix. And it does that over and over and over, and it's trying to do the Holy Spirit's work. All the while patting itself on its back for all its great spiritual practice and yada, 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 yada.
I have said repeatedly that the Holy Spirit would not deprive you of your special relationships, but would transform them. And all that is meant by that is that He will restore to them the function given them by God.
So Yeshua's not saying the special relationship's bad. He's just saying we mistakenly made a substitute for our relationship with our Creator by the special relationships. So it's not about trying to then turn around and push special relationships away, because that's no different than trying to have them. I mean, if you're pushing them away, you're saying they're real and they're bad, they need to get away. That's no different than saying they're real and I need to have more of them. I need to have a maid, I need to have more money. So pushing them away is just as real as trying to have them. And we oftentimes don't recognize that. The ego thinks if it flips the duality coin over, then it's gone the other direction. Well, it's still the two-sided coin. We're trying to get restored to the whole function given by the Holy Spirit. We're going to come back to this slide. It's not about losing anything. It's simply about having it repurposed and put in its proper perspective, in the purpose that God gave it and fulfilling the function that God gave it. And everyone was given that function. Everyone has the same function, to embody the Creator, period. No matter what we think it are, it may seem to take on a lot of different forms in the world, but everybody has that one function. So again, this is not about saying special relationships are bad. That's the ego going, oh shit, and then trying to run off and do something about them. But we're going to listen to a channeling here from Yeshua through Paul Tuttle about our need to forgive, because every one of us is loaded, our consciousness is loaded with things that we have put in there. Definitions, purpose, meanings, value. I mean, all of us right here in this room would say chair, carpet, we could probably have a whole lot of agreement around definitions. And definitions have no reality in and of themselves. I mean, like carpet. Somebody at some point just made that up. You recognize that? I mean, they made up physically the carpet, and then the name, they just made it up. But Yeshua is saying there's a deeper meaning and a deeper purpose to everything. So in this, we start to undo the special relationship that we have within, with the definitions that we hold. And I had really special relationships with my definitions of God, and my beliefs about God, and my judgments about God. And I had special beliefs and definitions that were in direct conflict with each other, and I didn't even see that they were conflicting. I mean, I held this belief, oh, God's all loving. Sure, yeah, I believe that. But then I had this thing that, well, prayers aren't answered. I can ask, and then prayers aren't answered. So what's up with that? Those two things don't go together. So as I began doing this work with Yeshua, I began to see all these definitions. But the forgiveness that Yeshua is talking about here, he's pointing to absolute, total forgiveness, which is an absolutely clean slate, a mind fully purified of everything that we've ever thought and believed.
You who want peace can find it only by complete forgiveness. So obviously, something held as unforgiven in your consciousness is what deprives you of your peace. What is something that is unforgiven? You often think that it is something someone else has done that has caused you to be upset with them, and you have yet to forgive them for what they did. But I will tell you that what needs to be forgiven is that of the presence of God, which you have decided to define as something other than God. And that could be a leaf or a rock. It could be something, anything that you say, oh, it's just matter. The moment you say, oh, it's just matter, you have decided not to see God there. If you're going to see God there, you will say, oh, Spirit. And you will be curious to experience the fullness of Spirit that is embodied there. But as long as you say, oh, it's just matter, you've denied what it is, you are holding it to be something different, and you have separated yourself from the conscious experience of God. And so, forgiveness needs to be given to whatever it is that you have defined as something other than God. And forgiveness amounts to the abandonment of your commitment to your personal definition of the presence of God as something other than the presence of God. Forgiveness is the abandonment of the definitions you have given to everything. The presence of God doesn't need to be given a definition. It simply needs to be embraced and experienced. So whatever you have given a definition to needs to be forgiven. Not for what it did. It needs to be abandoned. The definition needs to be abandoned by you so that there is a space within you for what it really is to register with you. You who want peace can find it only by complete forgiveness, by being completely willing not to energize and be convinced of any definition you have made up and applied to the presence of God that makes the presence of God appear to you to be something other than God. You see? No learning is acquired by anyone unless he wants to learn it and believes in some way that he needs it. Well, I'll tell you something. You guys learn a whole lot by virtue of being very creative in the definitions you give to everything, and then memorizing your definition and making commitment to it. That's learning. No learning is acquired by anyone unless he wants to learn it and believes in some way that he needs it. And I'll tell you that literally, waking up, coming back into your right mind, is not really a process of learning. It's a process of unlearning. You don't need to learn about reality. The experience of reality is utterly natural to you. And you'll find that it's what's present as your conscious experience of being when you willingly abandon your cherished definitions of everything and each other and yourselves. A miracle is a sudden shift of perception which occurs in an undefended moment. An undefended moment is a moment which isn't full of your consciously defining something. However, you can experience an influx of insight voluntarily. A miracle happens involuntarily. And you can choose to look at the sweet peas or the glass on the table and desire to experience what it truly is with a willingness to invalidate any definition whatsoever you might have of it and have the influx of clarity come. And that wouldn't be defined as a miracle. Isn't it interesting? The minute you take, let us say, the sweet pea, and you say, oh, it's part of the plant kingdom. It arrived in my experience through a process of evolution, of physical evolution, through chance and natural selection. It's part of the physical universe which originated with the Big Bang, and God has nothing to do with it. Well, you know what? The moment you define anything in your experience as something other than God, you have deprived yourself of the conscious experience of what it is, and you're in a state of need. Now, although you might enjoy the sweet peas as what you have defined them to be, it's like there's a hole in you, there's an emptiness in you, because the experience of what it divinely is should be naturally and unavoidably available to you, and it's not, because you've got that space filled with your definition. And so there is an emptiness that you cannot identify. You can't identify what's missing because you're in an act of denying what it is. So this state of need impels you to improve your situation. It impels you to get out of the need. And it tells you to look for the fulfillment of that emptiness in the world of your own definitions. And that's why you're constantly trying to improve yourself, and that's why you're constantly trying to improve your world, when the only thing that will remove the need is for you to abandon your definitions and leave an empty space where your definition had been, so that the presence of God that was always there might register with you. The dissatisfaction which accompanies lack causes you to look in the wrong place for fulfillment. It implies that you would be better off in a state somehow different from the one you are in. And this is why I keep homing in on the fact that the only thing confronting you, the only thing in your face is the kingdom of heaven. And right here, right now, right with the sweet peas, right with the glass tabletop, the carpeting, your fingernails, whatever, right here is where your attention needs to be given, with the curiosity to see the more of what reality is than your definition is allowing you to see. The answer is not a state somehow different from the one you are in, or a place different from the one you are in. The only thing you can deprive yourself of is the conscious experience of God, because there isn't anything else available for you to deny.
Well, we're full of definitions. That's actually how you get ahead in this world, isn't it? We go to school to be taught what everything is, specifically, and we slice definitions really, really thin, and we give all kinds of, like the Eskimos have like 65 different definitions for snow, different names for snow. We're full of this, and we mistakenly believe that it is the acquisition of new knowledge that gets us ahead in the world, and or the acquisition of new spiritual knowledge, or the right spiritual knowledge, that brings us ever greater harmony and ever greater peace. Because that's the only thing we've known in this world, is learning as an attempt to fill the emptiness. But that learning, filling the emptiness with learning, is actually the action of denying the truth which is already present. So God is all that is. There's never been a time you've been apart from it. There's never been a time you could ever be apart from it. And we run right around, right past the trees and the grass and the carpet and the cars and everything else, saying, where's God? Because we've already decided in our mind, I know what a tree is. That's not God. I got to go find God. I know what my spouse is. They're certainly not God. I got to go find out what God is. Because we've created of our own thinking, from our own thinker, definitions, and we say, I know what that is. And I have judged that to be not God. I've judged that to be not perfect. So I'm off to find it. Well, have any of us ever found it? We're like the fish running around swimming in the sea. Where's the water? We've got to find this mythical water. If we don't find this water, we're going to have to come back and swim another ocean. We are full of these definitions. And we cling to them like crazy. We create judgments based on them. We create beliefs based on them. And then we fight to defend them. And even all of our religious conflict in this world has been in defending the definitions and fighting over land, which is God, fighting over God. It's crazy what we do. But if we don't begin this undoing process, because we keep looking for God within the known of our egoic consciousness, And we think, like the puzzle guy, if we can just get the right pieces in the right thing, all of a sudden, bam, it's going to get really clear and we're going to see God. We're going to experience God. He's asking us to invite us in the conscious experience of saying, wow, instead of my definition of tree and all the crap that I've put on it, what if I'm just present and say, Father, what is the truth here? What is the experience of love, of God being had right here, right now? I joyfully set aside everything I thought, everything I believed, everything I've defined, everything everyone else has defined. And you know, these definitions are damn tricky, because if you're in a special relationship, you like for the people you're in a special relationship to share your definitions. Don't we? And if they don't we want to get them out of our life and find someone who shares our definition? We do this with groups, we do this with countries, we do this all over the planet. And all of that energy is taking what is whole and present immediately all the time and breaking it apart and breaking it apart and breaking it apart and separating it, separating it, separating it, separating. So the whole process is an undoing, coming back to the original innocence, almost like an infant before thought and concept and belief and everything arises. It's a shame that we're now teaching infants is like 18 months. We don't even give them a full 2 or 3 years before we start teaching them definitions, before we start separating them from the whole, because we think that's the right thing to do for them. We think that's how they'll get ahead and be successful, is to be even more separate from God, to have their definitions even more important. We're going to see this in a movie coming up in a couple weeks, The Life of Pi. We're going to talk about how we adopt these things. We adopt them because we all came in as absolutely clean sheet. None of us probably are holding uniquely brand new beliefs or definitions. Didn't you adopt them from everybody else? I mean, isn't that how you get good grades in school? If you share the definitions that the teacher says are the right ones? Wow, then you get rewarded. You get brought up to the front of the class. Whereas the kids who rebel or push back or says, well, says who? They're ostracized because they're shaking up our shared definition apple cart. So it's really about undoing, undoing, undoing. And we defend them, even the spiritual ones. So the real question about all this, rather than all these special relationships and trying to do the puzzle, is ask, who the hell is the puzzle guy? Who's trying to put this puzzle together? Who is doing all this? Who is it I think I am, and I think others are, and I think I should be, and I think they should be, and I think, 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 and I think. All within the context. You recognize you have to think within the context of your own definitions. You can't think anywhere else, can you? You can't think outside of your own past. Right now, can anyone imagine a color you haven't seen? That's a nice way to bring your mind to stillness pretty quick. You know, you can ask questions the mind will have no idea how to answer. If you want a minute apiece, ask it to do nothing but think of a color that doesn't exist. I can feel it in the room. It's like the brakes went on. Everybody's thrown forward in their because their mind abruptly stops. So it's not really, I mean, at some point you start with looking at the special relationships and you get on the spiritual path, and the Course in Miracles is about mind training, about going from negative thoughts to positive thoughts, from fear thoughts to love thoughts. But at some point you need to abandon that too. Because all you're really doing is turning the coin over. You're saying, I'll trade this definition for this one. And if you'll look within your consciousness when you want to forgive something or you want to let a definition go, immediately the mind abhors the vacuum. A new one wants to come take its place. Well, if it doesn't mean this, if it's not special relationship, then we'll put holy in its place. But if you just imagine a picture in your mind of almost an infinite row of pigeonholes, like little mailboxes, they can't be empty. The mind will fill them with something. And then it will cherish them and it will defend them. And all of that is the energy around our ego and sustaining our ego. So you want to know what the most special relationship is that you don't even know? Here it comes. I think I'm actually the damn thinker. Your most special relationship is with your thoughts. and the fact that you think you're actually the caretaker of them. You're actually the thinker of them. And all that energy has been looking outside of you at special relationships so you wouldn't look at the most cherished one. Who is it I really think I am? Because that I am that's the thinker is the one that's making these definitions and protecting these definitions and doing all this effort and trying to do the puzzle. Well, I got news for you. That's not the Spirit. And we put an extraordinary amount of energy into that. And we think we're the thinker. And we keep thinking so, and we think so over and over and over and over and over. And all of that is the energy of denial, so that there's not a break in it, so there's not a holy instant where we're open to revelation or to correction from the Spirit, because we're too busy filling that space with thinking. So thinking is really just talking in your mind. And all that's doing, whether you recognize it or not, is validating who you think you are. And we do it all day long, and we get to the end of the day, and did any of those thoughts matter at all? Can you remember one of them? Well, then why do we keep doing it? It seems so important, we just won't stop it. That's the whole energy that is creating our separation. In the moment. This isn't an ancient separation. We enact it by thinking ourselves separate. By thinking these are my private thoughts. And I can think them and nobody will know what they are. And I can think happy ones and I can say things that are different than what I think. All of that, every bit of that, is the special relationship you have with your own thoughts. And you keep thinking them. And you can get really cherished with some spiritual ones. I could see peace instead of this. And whether they're mantras or whatever, but we actually think we're that thinker. And we keep trying to improve that thinker. We keep trying to redefine that thinker. And we don't recognize that's the trap. So at some point, if you haven't already noticed, the ego will never finish looking out here and saying, oop, you got a special relationship here. You better change that. Oop, you better change that. Oop, you better change that. It's time for you to hold a mirror up and look at who thinks they're thinking. And look really, really closely at that, because the deepest, most cherished one you have is with your thoughts. And you are right to think them. And you're right to insist that they are correct. And every bit of that is the action that is actively, moment by moment by moment, separating you from the whole, which is ever present right here. It's a state of being right here, right now. So if you think you're the thinker, you're trapped. You'll think yourself around a merry-go-round. How many of you have already been around a merry-go-round? Thinking you can think your way off of it because you think your way on it. At some point, we have to abandon the tool that's got us in the trouble. And we created a distinctly separate identity that we call me by having such a special relationship with our thoughts. Boy, and we're damn sure they're right, even when we don't have any direct evidence. Have you ever noticed that? Your spouse is late or something getting home, and you know why they're not home on time. You don't have any evidence. You don't know. But we're so predisposed to believe that thing. A negative thought comes, oh yeah, that's ego. And then a nice one comes, we're like, oh, that's beautiful. I'll think that one a couple more times. All the while, denying what's here because we're resting in a separate identity built on this house of cards of definitions, and we don't even recognize we're doing it to ourselves. So at some point you have to abandon that whole thing. You have to give up the thinker and move persistently and consistently into the silence, where you can truly be informed, where you can begin to have an experience of what is sans your definitions. You can begin to experience an experience where there's not an observer and an observed. Because you're no longer defined as a body and that's no longer defined as a tree, all of a sudden there's just this experience. But we don't make ourselves available to that. And if we do, we try and do it by thinking more. Oh, I'm really present. I want to experience myself as that tree because God's all there is and it's... And we try and think our way into it. You can't. We have to abandon that thought that says we're a thinker, because anytime you think it, you attribute it to you as a separate being. That's the greatest special relationship that we have. And it's the one that the ego will never look at. Unless somebody like Yeshua, hit me with this freight train, just as we're now hitting you with this freight train, I wouldn't have ever thought to look there, because I was so clear that my thinking was actually helping me. I didn't realize that that was the trap I was laying for myself. I was enacting the separation with my insistence to think and do the puzzle and do the learning as everything that I had learned in the world. So this is absolutely about turning the apple cart upside down. And I can feel it out there now. Well, how will I live if I can't think? I need to be able to think, because we've identified our existence with the thinker, with those thoughts. The fact of the matter is, humanity is the only thing that does this. All of nature out there that's an expression of God's doing just fine without thinking about rain next week. It's just being what it is. We think we actually have to think, because the ego has to think in order to live, in order to propagate itself, in order to continue to insist it's a separate being who's on this spiritual path and is really close to waking up. So are you willing to empty yourself? You can start with the definitions. You can start to let go of those things, but you're ultimately going to empty yourself of self. You're going to empty yourself of little self and let big self come and fill you in. Empty your cup so that it might be filled. Recognize your minds right now. Who's got an empty cup for God to fill? Damn, that's like an encyclopedia in there. I mean, it's like the Library of Congress in our minds, isn't it? I know, I felt overwhelmed at this stage too. I was like, oh my God, I thought I had done a lot of spiritual work until he told me this. I thought I had made a lot of progress until he told me this. Because the ego will give up a battle because it doesn't want to lose the war, Because when there's no thinking, there's just direct being, there's just direct apprehension from the big M mind or the big S self. It's a very different experience. But rarely do we make ourselves available to that because we're so busy propagating ourselves and believing that we're the thinker. And that by thinking more or thinking different, and these are early steps on the path, it's great to think different. It's nice to have loving thoughts instead of mean ones. It feels better. I mean, it's not bad. But if the negative thoughts weren't true, they weren't reality, well, then your nice, new, spiritual, happy ones, well, they're not any more true either. If you want to find truth, you've got to identify the thinker within that keeps creating all these substitutes for truth. And move into the emptiness and allow yourself to be completely, completely informed. So immediately, the mind will start to protest. And I'll tell you, for me, the thing was the mind kind of laid down as though to say, okay, I'll just quit. And then you don't even feel it. You don't even perceive it, just little by little by little. Before you know it, you're off thinking again, and whoosh, you're off to the stinking races. So it takes a lot of vigilance. When Yeshua talked about vigilance for the kingdom, he's talking about the vigilance for the holy instant, vigilance for the truth, vigilance for the silence. Not vigilance for more thinking. The ego takes that thinking thing and makes it more vigilant for now even more spiritual thoughts. So we never actually arrive at the base I am presence, the direct apprehension of being, because we've masked it. We've covered it up right here, right now in front of us. We don't even see it. It's spread across the face of the earth, but we don't see it because we're looking through the filter of our own eyes. We're looking through the filter of our own minds. We're looking through the filter of our own beliefs. You want the truth, it's right here, right now. It costs you nothing but the absolute emptiness of what you think you are. And you can't think your way to emptiness, you recognize that. It's really about stopping. Because thinking is just like talking. You don't think you can stop it, but you can. And even if you can't stop it, at least don't believe it. Begin to find the silence that's present that the thinking arises out of. Just don't run off with the thinker. But if you don't break this special relationship, you've really gone nowhere. And it can be very depressing. Because that thinker thought it was going to get the golden prize. That thinker's been working its ass off on its spiritual path thinking it gets the prize. It gets God. It gets peace. It gets joy. And all the effort that we put into it is just another trick denying it, pushing it out in the future so that we're not present in the holy instant where we can be informed by what's true. So the purification that the Course in Miracles talks about is not turning from negative to positive. That's the first step. It's about abandoning both. This is a little script from, or a part of the movie Revolver. Who all's seen Revolver? I know a couple of you have seen it a bunch of times. This is a scene, this is an alternate ending that probably wasn't in the one that I showed. I may have showed this alternate ending at the retreat. But Jake is coming to the realization that the spirit, which is played by this black character, has been playing him the whole time. And he thought he was making all this progress. He thought he knew what was going on. He thought he was in control. And the spirit just was luring him in to this point of realizing he didn't know a stinking thing and it was his action. So you see him kind of come to the realization and clarity around it. So enjoy.
You know what's so elegant about this little game, Jake? Nobody knows where the enemy is. They don't even know he exists. He's in every one of their heads. And they trust him. Because they think they are him. If you try to destroy him to save them, they'll destroy you to save him. Ah, it's beautiful, man. You have to admire the opponent's elegance. Check. You're quite good at this game, Mr. Green. I know, because I'm quite good at this game. Check. Check. Check.
The art is for me to feed pieces to you and make you believe you took those pieces because you're smarter and I'm dumber.
Checkmate.
Wake up, Mr. Green.
You can't see what's right in front of you.
I never saw or spoke to those boys in all those years. But you know, I'd have died for either one of them. One was a chess master, the other a master con man. Dangerous combination. Chess and cons. Those two knew everything about me. All my dirty little secrets, how much money I had, where I kept it. Those slim bastards cleaned me out. My neighbours used to write down chess moves and concepts of the con on the back pages of books based on subjects like the mathematics of quantum mechanics.
Wake up, Mr. Green.
We were all going to go together. They swore to me. You're coming with us, Jake.
We were always going to take you with us, Jake. You just weren't ready to hear how hard that was going to be. We didn't do this because we like you. We did this because we are you.
It is on the Waking Up to the Movies. It's called Revolver. It's very, very powerful, powerful movie. And you know, there's a very important line there. We don't do this because we like you. We do this because we are you. And if you look within your consciousness, you will see energy about trying to endear yourself to Spirit. That somehow you'll get preferential, not preferential, but you'll get attention. You'll get some beneficence by your supplication. All of that is the ego, every bit of it. You get the help to wake up to who you are because of who you are. It has nothing to do with like or dislike or what you've ever done. You're only in this room because you're seeking liberation. Well, you're going to be liberated from the thinker you think you are. Does your separate self exist anywhere except within the context of that thinker and all its definitions and all its beliefs? It's that hungry ghost that keeps you coming here to these things, keeps you looking on the internet, keeps you reading book after book after book after book, certain that it's in something else. All the while, the ego's kicked back on a beach because it's not threatened in the least. Because you're not actually questioning, who am I? Who is the thinker? You can get an awful lot happier by doing a lot of mind training. I'm not by any means knocking it. But if you want the full Monty, you see what it's going to cost. And you really give up nothing. You give up all the fear that comes with being a separate person. You give up all the anxiety, all the need to protect, all the emptiness, all the fear, to recognize I'm already in the kingdom of heaven. I always have been and I always will be, and I'm perfectly safe. Because the fact that your body is only an idea and a concept and belief and defined within the context of your thinker. There is reality beyond the mind that thinks it thinks. And that's what we come to welcome you to. But you can't bring that with you. You can't bring the separate identity with you. And the ego's going to try. You just have to abandon thinking and abandon the fact that you think you're that thinker. That's your whole separate existence. Every bit of it. So, you start by erasing definitions. If you want to use our symbol of the eraser in the chalkboard, you start by erasing definitions. For me, I erased form, I erased the body. It was like if I could think of anything to erase, I was erasing it. And then I gave Yeshua the eraser and said, erase whoever's erasing. Because the ego loves to have something for it to do, especially if it's a spiritual practice. But you recognize you've just given the keys to the kingdom to that one's driving the other direction. And we don't really recognize it because rarely do we actually turn and question, who thinks this? To whom does this thought come? Where is, and you'll start to see there's a whole lot of energy behind that trying to convince itself that you're it. And it's really good at it. We're all deeply identified with it. We all really do believe that we're the thinker of all those thoughts. But next, Yeshua is going to just take us all the way to the end. You can do this the fast way or the short way. The quick way or the long way. You can go definition by definition by definition by definition. And I recognize you all felt the kind of incredible quantity of that within your consciousness. You can try and empty all those pigeonholes one at a time. You'll be down row 10 and one will get snuck in there behind you. Or you can actually go after the thinker and abandon it at its source, and then all the pigeonholes will go away.
I'm going to make a fine distinction here Belief produces the acceptance of existence. Knowing produces the acceptance of being. I am indicating thereby that the word existence refers to what you are experiencing in a separated state. The word existence has an opposite, non-existence. The word being does not have an opposite. Now, as you invite clarity, as you invite clarification, as you are willing to say, not my will, but thine be done, and then listen for it, and then be congruent with it, your beliefs improve. And you experience the results of your improved belief. But the goal is to completely abandon belief in favor of the direct experience of knowing that is present as your conscious experience of being when you are not thinking. And so the void that one arrives in as a result of abandoning thinking is pregnant with reality, is pregnant with infinity, is pregnant with eternity, is pregnant with the conscious experience of everything from God's point of view. And that is the conscious experience of, it is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom.
It's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. The Father's more than happy to share with you at any moment, if we're absolutely open to it, the vision or the truth as God sees it. And that's how I can look upon each and every one of you, and nothing you've ever done matters. I see only the perfection because I've abandoned a thinker who would define you, who would judge you, who would categorize you, who would, find you attractive or not. It's simply informed by that one mind of love that sees only itself and sees its same self-protection. If you look within your consciousness, you'll find that many times you're asking Spirit to validate what your beliefs are. You're not really offering it up. What's the truth beyond anything I can think? Or we'll throw up two and say, well, which one of these is it? I'll let Spirit pick the definition, but I still get to hold the definition. Rather than truly being empty and saying, I'm willing to abandon it all. I don't know what anything is or anything is for. There's a whole thing in the Course in Miracles about that. I don't know what anything is or is for. And it's not about getting a new spiritual definition to replace tree. It's not about running around now with thinking going, there's God, there's God, there's God, there's God, there's God, there's God. Because you're not going to have the experience of what that is. Because you'll still be thinking, here am I, and I'm pointing to what God is. It's not until you really move past all of that and it's one experience happening where the seer and the seen disappear as separate things. And it's God's pleasure to give you that. When you drop, all that you've made is very lousy substitutes. But so long as you insist on holding a separate identity and thinking it constantly into existence. And if you look, a lot of your thoughts aren't really important. They're just kind of ego space savers. They're just propagating, I'm not one with the Father. They're just constantly replaying your will over and over and over and over and over. So abandon beliefs. If you look at belief, the three middle letters are lie. Be a lie. If you want to hold beliefs and defend them, that's what you're doing. You're denying being through your own acceptance of lies. Concepts start with the con. I mean, even in the whole thing, it's all right here. But we don't ever see it. because we're trying to get the right concepts. And by the way, have you noticed who is it that picks the right one over the wrong one? Isn't that the thinker? Oh, but such a great job it's doing. So if you want liberation, it's yours for the taking. Because denial, sleepiness, is yours for the action. I mean, we're doing it to ourselves. So when do you stop? When you finally choose to. It's already God's pleasure to give you the kingdom. The whole inheritance is waiting for you to stop with your separate existence. All we have to do is abandon that. Stop the efforts to reform it. Self-improvement is another trap. You recognize your big self doesn't need any improving. It was already created perfect. So trick after trick after trick after trick. And they're fed to you within the thoughts, and you think they're thinking, and they're really great ideas, and off you go. Can you be still and know? He talks about belief produces acceptance of existence. Because if you look within your mind reserves the right to believe something until its existence is proved adequately to the thinker. Don't you experience that? Well, you see, there stands our thinking ego. I am determining what existence is, and I will determine what's real when I... So that's producing an artificial existence because it's producing it by proof and by thought. Whereas knowing produces the acceptance of being. Knowing is the direct apprehension of your reality of what you are without any thinking to suggest what it is, to define it. Babies are being. They have knowledge of being. They haven't been filled with anything else. They're always present. And boy, we like to get really present with them, don't we? Because it feels good. Because that's what's there. So your definable existence, and this is how our egos and our separate body minds defines itself into existence. By belief, 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 it creates an artificial existence that exists nowhere except within the thinker. It creates an illusion. And it paints it all over a world and insists that it's seeing reality. And by the way, when you have a realization, here's another one, you see reality with new eyes. You see it with the spiritual eye, and it's made real. Therefore, you have a realization. Real eyes. Cool stuff, isn't it? Because you don't need thinking to be, to know I am, and to know everything else. I am. Boy, but when that stinking thinker rolls up, all of a sudden, I'm this, and that's that, and this isn't good enough, and that's not good enough, and off we go to the separate races. Trying to improve ourselves to get us to the state which is ever present all the time, but we rise up in denial of what's true. Yeshua tells us how to do this. This is the long version. In the Bible, it simply said, be still and know I am God. We didn't get that 2,000 years ago, so this is the long version.
Simply do this. Be still and lay aside all thoughts of what you are and what God is. All concepts you have learned about the world, all images you hold about yourself. Empty your mind of everything it thinks is either true or false, or good or bad, of every thought it judges worthy, and all the ideas of which it is ashamed. Hold on to nothing. Do not bring with you one thought the past has taught, nor one belief you ever learned before from anything. forget this world, forget this course, and come with wholly empty hands unto your God.
It doesn't say, but bring the thinker. How empty are you willing to get is how full love can fill you. All of it. Every belief. Your beliefs about the brain, your beliefs about the body, your beliefs about the world, your beliefs about physics, your beliefs about matter, your beliefs about everything. I mean, he's saying the whole thinker's kitchen sink. Everything you think you are. And of course, the thinker doesn't want to do that. The thinker just wants to get rid of what it doesn't want. And then go to God and fill itself up with what it does want. All the while trying to just continue to rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. It's doomed. You're going to wake up from this at some point. After tonight, it's going to be harder to stay in your state of thinking denial. And that's really what we're doing when we're thinking actively, is we're denying the presence of God right there. Because we think we can't be informed about what's true or about how to live or how to be without doing it through our thoughts. But you recognize those thoughts are contained within it the whole database of right, wrong, good, bad, health, all kinds of stuff. Everything in creation is existing now without the need for thinking. Your life will flow effortlessly and joyfully without the thinker in there mucking it up. Because you're really about, what Jen talked about it earlier, am I willing to surrender to that infinite knowledge and that infinite wisdom to live through me in every way, or do I think by my thinking I can enhance it or improve it? Or I can turn it around and use it for my benefit. We try that. I tried it. Sure, we all do. Don't big deal. Don't beat yourself up. But this is the truth of it. You're not going to come to the reunion while you're holding things that you say you know. And if you just want to listen, how many times you say, I know? Or how many times you listen to a conversation and your thinker arises and is in dispute with someone else is saying. All of that's just, fighting in yourself with your own thoughts. Be still. It was the hardest thing I ever did. Because the mind deplores a vacuum. He talked about the void. A lot of spiritual paths, if it's viewed from the ego's thing, it's do not go there. This is boring as hell. I don't get it. This is supposed to be what it's all about. Why bother? Shit, this isn't worth it. I'll become a bump on a log. I'll just lay and do nothing. It tells all kinds of things to say, do not go to this place. Do not go to the emptiness and the void. Because it's there that you'll be filled with the pregnant void. You'll be filled with the infinite knowledge, the infinite experience of all that is, and there won't be any room for the thinker. You won't anymore think the thinker can enhance that at all. You won't make room within your being anymore for that part that perceives itself separately and thinks about it incessantly. Even if all that thinking is turned to thinking about God. It's a nice direction, but you got to lay God down. You got to lay all your concepts about God down. Do you really think the thinker's got it right? Do you really think the thinker knows much of anything when its whole idea was to deny reality? Is any of that information in there valuable enough to say, I insist that this stays? It's your choice. This is the threshold. This is the doorway to wisdom divine and peace eternal. Can you do this? Will you do this? Love will come in support of you because that stillness is present in your being right now. It's permeating this room and everyone and everything in it, and it's given itself to us fully. The opportunity is absolutely given right here, right now. The only thing that we deny it with is by holding on to that thinker and the whole collection of beliefs, and in that we deny it. So we're also going to pop another bubble tonight about prayer. How many pray? Come on. It's okay. We all did it. I did it too. Don't we address that prayer to God or some other master or higher being? Right there, you've already decreed, I'm separate. And then you go on in your prayer to ask for things, decreeing, not only am I separate, I am in lack and I am in need. And we feel so good about praying those prayers. And even in the extension of that prayer, we're enacting our own separation within our being. And if you look, you're really attached to praying to a God out there, or asking for help out there. Because what that all is a denial that it's not right here. Now, Yeshua uses prayer in the Course in Miracles. He uses it in the way of mastery. But if you look at his prayers, he makes them current prayers where there's an action of rest and acceptance in them. So, if you were going to pray, maybe you would simply say, self, truth. I release all that I've ever thought, and I'm open and I wait in stillness. Whatever, but recognize lots of action in praying is another trick. It's another way that we subtly create the separation. And by the way, whether you know it or not, there's a deep resentment that those prayers oftentimes seem to not be answered. So even in fervent prayer, there's a subtle thing going on down in the thinker that's creating resentment and animosity towards the direction of the prayer.
Prayer is a stepping aside, a letting go, a quiet time of listening and loving. It should not be confused with supplication of any kind, because it is a way of remembering your holiness. Why should holiness entreat, being fully entitled to everything love has to offer? And it is to love you go in prayer. Prayer is an offering, a giving up of yourself to be at one with love. There is nothing to ask because there's nothing left to want. That nothingness becomes the altar of God. It disappears in Him.
So it's not a supplication. It's not bowing. And this is very prominent in many, many pathways and many, many cultures. Because if you can get the thinker maybe to supplicate, but the thinker always thinks there's going to be some benefit for the thinker in the supplication. This is about knowing your holiness. It's hard to kind of go in the church carrying your bound in your supplication of unworthiness and expect to be filled. Because you've already judged. You've already decided. You've already created an identity apart from wholeness. And we think in that, wholeness will feel sorry for us and rush in and fill us. But wholeness just waits until we're finished playing with those kind of stories and those kind of games. And why should you, as one with all that is, entreat or ask for anything? Because aren't you really saying in your asking, I don't have it, I'm not it? Do you see? The thinker's always enacting the separation, always enacting empty or not wholeness, always enacting apartness. And we're so good at it and we believe it's so legitimate that we don't even recognize we're enacting our own separation in all those activities. It's a real bubble popper. I'm glad my bubble got popped enough that I could actually joyfully, willingly become empty and stay there. Because you might get the thinker to give up a meditation, but as soon as you're done with the meditation, then off to the races, thinking like crazy. It's about putting the thinker down and leaving it, letting go of it. Like at some point an alcoholic has to put the bottle down and not pick it back up, or put the pack of cigarettes down or not pick it back up. Because no one picks it up for us. Nobody jumps in your mind and insists that starts thinking. We're enacting that, but we've just so habituated it, and we actually thought that was what we're supposed to do. We actually know our whole existence in reality by being identified with the thinking. So if you want peace, peace comes in knowing that there's nothing left to want. Even God. that's when peace comes. That's when a true peace comes. When you no longer want health, when you no longer want abundance, when you no longer, because all of that arises out of that separate thinker. When you no longer want enlightenment. Otherwise, you leave all those things in there as energies for that, Yeshua calls it the hungry ghost. That just constantly is trying to become something, become something, become something, become something, get something, get something, get something. All the while, all that you could ever have, all that you already are, is present right now. We're just not aware of it because we're too busy thinking our way into denial. So, just a reminder, it's not a big deal. I know the thinker's a little pissed off out there. The thinker's a little worried. It's not a big deal. Relax. All that contraction and anxiety is part of the thinker. The emptiness, the vastness, the pregnant void is so spacious, it's holding you even in that contraction. It's allowing even that. It's the love that allows, trusts, and embraces all things. But just to speak to this, and this is directed not at the thinker, but at the soul.
Forget not who you truly are. Forget not also to be in joy in your experience here. Remember that the seriousness with which you once looked at life is of the ego. Drape your persona in a mantle of peace and joy. Let who you are shine through the personal self who continues to walk this world a while longer. Listen for my voice as I guide you to your purpose here and linger with you in this time to end all time.
So this is how you come to joy, is by putting the thinker that's not in joy, that's this hungry ghost, down and no longer identifying it. And resting not in the peace that passes all understanding, but as that peace. Not a thing you go to like the grocery store and fill up and then leave. But you become the embodiment of that peace, of that truth, of the way. And it was there that Yeshua could truly reveal to me what my specific purpose would be in extending this truth to others. Those who are ready. Those who want it. I mean, this is not happy news to the ego. It's not great news to the thinker. I mean, just got handed a death sentence, so to speak. And, I kind of thought maybe somebody would jump up and say, woo-hoo! I know the whole way out now. This is the whole way out. And I can tell you that joy and happiness is what awaits you. You're not going to miss that when it's gone. You're not going to miss feeling empty. You're not going to miss thinking you need someone else to fill you. You're not going to miss thinking, shit, I didn't go to that meditation, so I missed something really important. Or I missed a stinking dialogue, and oh my gosh, you're going to miss all that energy. I mean, you won't miss it. You won't miss, I didn't go to church, or I didn't say my prayers right, or I didn't. Because you'll be quiet, you'll be still, you'll be in that, and you'll be informed all the time by truth. And you'll be in relationship to truth, and you'll be truth greeting truth. And people can tell when there's a stillness present. They can feel the energy of that because you're no longer blocking it by your thinking. That's what allows the flow of creation to come. Your action of thinking is what blocks it. And then it creates blocks in the body which create pain and stress and disease and all kinds of other things, and that gives us even more to think about. So, forget not who you truly are. This is all about remembrance. Nobody did it wrong. We all played the I'm a thinker game. We all played the I'm a separate body game. We all played the ego game. Big deal. But we hit it so cleverly that we really don't even recognize it. I'm super grateful that Yeshua pointed it out to me, or I could have been riding the merry-go-round I don't know how many more times. You could be riding the merry-go-round I don't know how many more times. So don't engage with the thinker with more thinking. When the thinker's thinking, it doesn't do any good to say, shut up. Who's doing that? That's the thinker yelling at itself and trying to get you to feel good about it. So I'll tell you these tricks because I tried them. I thought an awful lot about silence and stillness. And I wanted to give it all kinds of properties and definitions and qualities, and also I wouldn't go there or try and create a definition that it felt safe to go there. Silence is just silence. Stillness is stillness. And when the voice does arise within that, the truth, it comes with a knowing and a certainty that is forever beyond doubt. You all have experienced it at some point in your life. It's about living that certainty, living that expression, living that truth, living that personally, and let it shine out where the body-mind used to be. Let that light shine out. In case you haven't got it, we'll go back one more time. This we started with, we're going to close with it.
I have said repeatedly that the Holy Spirit would not deprive you of your special relationships, but would transform them. And all that is meant by that is that He will restore them to the function given them by God.
So God created you in His image as a creator, perfect, whole, radiant, eternal. That's what you were created. We made a special relationship with mind and created a separate identity out of it. So you're not going to lose identity. You're just going to, the Holy Spirit's going to repurpose it back to God's use. It's going to repurpose the identity back to being that which is one with all that is, rather than a separate and distinct thing. So you're not going to lose yourself. It's just the little s gets upgraded to the big S. And you don't miss the little one when it's gone. So we made a special relationship out of our being what God created. Big deal. We made it with ourselves, and then we made all kinds of special relationships out there just to add more fun to the game. So you're not going to lose your existence. You're going to lose the existence as you've defined it. But hasn't that come with a whole lot of suffering and pain and loss and fear and judgment? So you're not going to lose anything that's real and true. So move into that silence, move into that stillness, drop the thinker. And abide there, abode there, make that your home. This was his whole thing about build your house on the rock, because the silence is always silence. It's dependable. It's solid as a rock. It doesn't change. The stillness just is. And your house in his parable represents your identity. That, or you build it on the sand, which is all this crazy thinking that goes on. One day, it seems like the house will last forever. The next day, it's gone. Haven't you experienced? That's the movement of your mood. That's the movement of thought. That's the movement of feeling. So come and abide in the house, in the stillness and silence, as what you are. Not that you bring the thinker in there to hang out for a while, but that you become fully identified there as the truth that is always true. You're welcome. There's plenty of room in the silence. It's infinite. It's what you are already. We're actually using the presence of that to create the space where we can think ourselves apart from it. That's the joke. It's been here the whole time. It's so ever present, we can't get away from it, but damn, we convince ourselves. And then we try really hard to get right back to where we already are. But we're so identified with our thoughts that we're convinced we're not where we are. We're convinced God's out there, heaven's some other place, rather than a state right here, right now. Heaven is here and now, period. And if you're not abiding in it, it's only by the choice to create a thinker and identify with it. So you're not going to lose existence. You're just going to you're going to have the purpose that God created fully restored. And you won't be disappointed. But the thinker doesn't have a role to play. And you'll really be glad about that. I mean, if you do want to use some thinking, think about what it would be like to not have a thinker for a while. You recognize that'd probably be pretty peaceful. So, Any questions or comments tonight?
This is what I've been constantly thinking about thinking and not thinking. It's like you can't.
I know, it's incessant, isn't it? I mean, you give the thinker a topic, it'll think about it.
Well, I've been using a mantra. It's the one that's in the Course of Mastery. It just says, "I accept the." Use it with a breath. You breathe in. I accept the love of God, and you keep doing that over and over. Is that? I guess if you can do that, you can just keep it up, and and then eventually you'll be that silence.
Well, sure, but you can breathe without thinking. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're welcome to start that way, and I think I've heard a meditation of his where he's talking about that in the channel. Start with, I accept the love of God. I accept the love of God. And you kind of get the feeling of it, and then you let the thought fall away, but you stay with the feeling of it. You stay with the present experience of it without the words. It's just like you reach over and you turn the volume down, but the experience is still going. The knowledge is there of what's going on. You're present, you're feeling, all faculties are working, but you don't need the commentary anymore. And some of us we've got a play-by-play guy and a color guy in there, don't we? You watch a football game, there's one guy that's giving you the straight up, and then other guy's kind of talking about what's happening. Look within your consciousness. Some of us have 2 or 3 of those going on in there. So start with it and then drop it. And see if you can stay with the practice without the mantra. The mantra can simply be a tool to hold the thinker present rather than giving the thinker a leash to run off. But if you're going to keep the thing on the leash, you're still keeping it on the leash. It's about abandoning it. Maybe let it run off and never welcome it back. So use it if it works, but recognize you don't need the words, you don't need the active thinking to have the experience.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Hey.
Hello, my friend.
So this one for me just kind of, it felt a lot different than some of our other dialogues because I feel like you're just saying, nothing else matters. It's all crap. Just basically just submit, that our thinker is just that powerful, isn't it? It's that powerful that it can just override the simple truth that we just are, that God is. That's it.
Well, the ironic thing is we use that power that God is, that we are, that I am, to create the thinker which we bestow with incredible power if we so choose. And then it can create, because that threat of how powerful that thinker is had to arise within your being as a thought about it, which you identified with. It has no more power than you give it. One of the practices he gave me was start to see thought as colors. And just see them pass like a rainbow. There goes yellow, there goes green, there goes purple, there goes orange. To start removing the identification and removing the connection and the attachment to what they were. And this isn't about now trying to paint a picture that you want with the color. It's just about letting them be color. From our ego's point of view, what you're feeling and what I can feel many others are feeling in here is a sense of, wait a minute, I thought we were coming out as Christ. I thought this was all supposed to be fun and exciting. Well, it is, but when you are coming out as Christ, you are abandoning the thinker in the closet. That's what created your separate closet. So the thinker feels left out of the party. It's like, shit, I did all this work for nothing. I created all this experience and all this. So, kind of think of the thinker as a set of skis. They're really, really helpful when you want to be snow skiing. This thinker was very, very helpful to propagate us having a separate perceived experience. But if you're at the beach, what good do your stinking skis do you? And in the kingdom, the thinker doesn't do you any good. So I recognize that energy. There can be, and for many, sometimes this can go very deep into depression and thoughts of suicide and all kinds of stuff because that's the thinker feeling, why fucking bother? I mean, damn it.
I'm not there.
Okay.
I'm not there.
Well,
you're good.
Somebody's probably going to see that. So, but the joy comes The joy, the causeless joy comes in abandoning that thinker. Because judgment's a big function of that. Its belief in time and space is a big function of the thinker. The belief in death is all contained within the thinker. So the joy of the kingdom is when we abandon that, when we let it go. It served its purpose. And you know what? We're very powerful. You heard Avi say it in that thing. It's just so clever that we created so much power by something that was actually not really even real. We gave it so much power and became so deeply identified with it. But this really is what it's all about. If you want to have a happy thinker, you're welcome to. There's a whole section of the Course in Miracles about a happier dream. Nothing wrong with a happier dream. Nothing wrong with that at all. But know that a happy dream has another side of a coin to it. If you want to be absolutely free and liberated, it's complete abandonment of that thinking mind. And it's not abandonment and then thinking up a new one to take its place. This is true, moving into the silence and stillness until that becomes your own identity. That kind of capital M mind. So it can be helpful at some points. I would have those same kind of things. I'd be like, so I would ask Yeshua and he would say, well, let me share my point of view about this. Just as I did with you. And it doesn't take but a second. You go, well, I like that point of view a lot better. Maybe it's okay to move in that thing and wait for that experience or stop creating a separate experience so I can wake up and remember that.
Thanks.
You're welcome. One more trick the ego will do, it'll try to concoct a non-thinking language. It'll try and represent itself as not present and not thinking, and you'll start to communicate with people as though you're not there, thinking you're not thinking. I mean, it's just the tricks come and go and come and go and come and go. It's really, really clever. So the only thing you can trust is silence. Because it can't lie. When your only prayer becomes silence, you already have the answer. Because all need is gone. And then you can rest in peace. And rest in that peace, my friend, and see how it feels, And your life will go on. It's not like life as you've known it will end. Parts of it may. That which was the thinker here when it was no longer present, all of a sudden the asshole that thought all that stuff wasn't here to be mean to the family, There was love that came to take its place. This is what he meant when he said, not I dwell, but Christ dwelleth within me. The truth, the love that arises out of that silence and stillness that's ever present. So you won't really want to rely on your separate little mind anymore when you start to get infilled by the Spirit. You'll be like, God, why would I want to create this separate fearful thing anymore? Anyway, so have fun with this or not, your choice. Anyone else? Cindy.
I'm just having so much fun with this. How we talk about that we create the separation in every moment in our present day experience. So I'm looking at this and thinking how funny we get to the end of this dialogue. We'd have to think we were the thinker to come up with a question or a comment.
Beautiful. Yeshua, at the end of his channelings, he calls the question and comments the entertainment. The channeling's about truth, but the questions are about entertainment. So this whole action of the thinker with this puzzle, you all are very familiar with this. You're really, really, really struggling, desiring to put all the pieces in there and get it all right, and then you want to glue it so that it can't come apart. And you want to put it up on your wall like a big diploma so you can show it to all your friends. I got the puzzle right! And let all that go. So let it all go, if you wish. I mean, it's really the only way you're going to know. Otherwise, you're continuing to play with beliefs, which, of course, are being a lie. Because if it means it's you, you're being a lie. And none of you are bad, by the way. We all played it. We all created our ego stories. Isn't it cool that we got to do that? With no consequence, that heaven didn't leave us, that we weren't actually separate, that we could experience all that really, really authentically, all the while being held by the truth. All the while perfectly safe. Jen, will you sing to us again? Without thinking? I'm just kidding. So this song, For the Love of You, how perfect. And you know, Jen channeled these things with Yeshua, picked them out.
Yeah, so this is a song that I had a pretty profound shift with at the retreat, because when it initially showed up in my life, I really kind of thought that it was about music and about how music had gotten me through some really difficult situations, that no matter the up and downs in my life and the relationships that came and went, music felt like it was kind of like the one constant. And then while I was at the retreat, I had this realization that this was not about music at all, but this was about God and how God infused my life and the connection that I have with that source. And now sitting here with this dialogue, another realization came that when it dawned on me that this song was about God, I was putting God out there and looking there. And that realization has now shifted. So it's just beautiful.
Enjoy singing to yourself.
Thank you. When I'm feeling down and my faith is gone and I've got nowhere else to turn, when my fear gets the best of me and I can't stand the sight of me, when my walls come crashing down, you are the one thing that makes sense. You are the one thing I have left. In my chaos and confusion, you come to me. In my fear and frustration, you hold me in your waves, and in your sound my soul resides. And in your words my soul resides. In your openness lies my true voice. And for the love of you, I last another day. When the darkness falls and it swallows my light, and I'm feeling so unworthy, when I can't stand the way I write and I just want to hide from sight, when my defenses all fail me, you are the one thing that makes sense. You are the one thing I've got left. In my chaos and confusion, you come to me. In my fear and frustration, you hold me in your waves, and in your sound I am restored. And in your words my soul resides. In your openness lies my true voice. And for the love of you, I last another day. You are the one thing that makes sense. You are the one thing I have left. In my chaos and confusion, you come to me. In my fear and frustration, you hold me in your waves, and in your sound I am restored. And in your words my soul resides. In your openness lies my true voice. And for the love of you, I last another day. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. You have another question?
Not a question.
Okay.
When you were doing that, I was replacing, I am the one thing that makes sense. I am the one thing that I've left in my chaos and confusion. I come to me in my fear and frustration. I hold it. Anyway, I
You bet.
replaced it.
You bet. Yeah, Jen's doing a whole series for our upcoming retreat, taking nowies and future, or pasties and futuries and making nowies of them. All those songs that say God is you and I are separate, that comes I am, and everything that has time, when, becomes now. Yes, Gail.
So if all thought stops, then is everything that is said channeled?
Yes. Her question was, if all thought stops, is everything said channeled? And my own experience is that it's not like all of a sudden some distinctly separate entity like comes and takes you over. You were it all along. You just didn't know you were it. So it's not all of a sudden like, whoop, some other being shows up. I mean, you guys have all been here. You hear this John Mark's past. It's used in the context of all this work. But I don't maintain a database by thinking about any of that stuff anymore. The airplanes have those black boxes in them that kind of tell you what happened in the past. You know how peaceful and spacious it is when you're experiencing and knowing without needing to record everything on a black box so that you can access it to create a self-identity. There's an enormous amount of your energy that goes into maintaining all those databases and is correlating everything that happens against the past. All that kind of disappears into this being, direct knowing in the moment. Yeah. And you've experienced this when you paint. You don't have to think about it. It just happens. And we've all experienced this. You call it being in the zone. You've experienced it when you have an orgasm, at least. There's a moment of no thought in there. Many of you have been involved in something like hours pass. It's just that joy of being present when it all else kind of falls away. But the opportunity here is to live in that as the nature of your own being rather than just making little skirmishes into heaven and then running back into your separate thinking mind. Cool, cool stuff. Love offering. We've offered you the love. No soul showed up in this room who wasn't ready to get this key. And many of you, despite the fact that it might not feel so great, you recognize, well, this is the key. This is the last key I would ever need. This doesn't require any spiritual practice. It doesn't require anything other than simply stopping. And stop gently. Chances are it's not going to just stop immediately. When it's going, just step away. Don't judge yourself. Don't condemn yourself. Don't put any more energy into it. Just stop. Just relax. Just relax. Just relax. Take it easy. Love offering. This is all this family does. We need your love and support to pay the bills of this house. I mean, some people have a misperception that you wake up and just like, bags of money appear in your closet or something. That's really not the way it is. I am dependent on love. You, by the way, are love. This is what you're waking up to. So we extend this through our family because this is our choice, my dharma, my personal, or not personal, but my special function given by God to extend the reminders and keys to all of my cool friends who are really myself. So if you would, there's a basket on the other side of the fireplace. If you're watching online, you can go to onewhowakes.org. In the upper right-hand corner is a little give button. You can click there and give the donation. And we accept all kinds of good international donations. So for a moment, even if we have to use the little trick of think of a color that you've never seen, just join me for a moment in that place. It's not so hard. It feels really, really peaceful. You're welcome anytime. Your seat, so to speak, has got your name on it already. Christ. Big row, they all have Christ on the back of them. If anyone's desiring to come sit, can sit in the silence with me. That's really what I prefer to do, but I usually have to meet thinkers in the thinker. But I'd be happy to invite you in and let you rest with me in the peace and silence. You can come sit in silence, or we'll talk. Doesn't matter. Silence is the same for me, whether it's talking or not. You can contact me, Skype, FaceTime, whatever. We're going to be in Wisconsin doing a plurk shop. If anyone's interested, you're welcome to meet us there, or have One Who Wakes and me come do it somewhere else. And the dates of that in Fond du Lac, someone wanted me to mention, was October 11. There's a meet and greet, and then October 12th is the function. There's some flyers over there. We love you with an absolutely infinite love, and it has nothing to do with like. It has nothing to do with anything you've ever done. We are you. You are us. The only way we can experience that is in that space when we abandon our separate thinkers. We so desperately want the world to wake up with all our separate thinkers. That's not where we wake up to. We wake up to the one without the thinkers. And that's how our separation ends. That's when peace comes. So will you do your part by not thinking about what needs to happen in the world out there, but do your part of dropping your thinker? And you can encourage others to join you in that place, which is peace, not trying to create peace through shared definitions or new technologies or whatever else. I'm not saying any of that's bad, but you recognize that's still running you in the other direction from where the doorway to heaven is. Stairway, doorway, whatever. And by the way, it's just a doorway. There's no actual door. It's never closed. That's what Yeshua did when he got there. He took the door off the hinges. So anyway, we love you with an infinite love and a perfect peace. And know that when you come into that space, all of creation abides there with you. You're never alone there. If you open to that feeling sense, you'll begin to feel it. The thinker will want you to go in there all by yourself and be all like extra lonely in the silence. It's rich, rich, infinitely rich, pregnant with peace. We love you, we love you, we love you. Love hugs on the way out if somebody's interested. If you're pissed off, it's okay, we'll skip the hug. So Lucia is reminding me, oh yeah, Yeshua and I talked about this too. The retreat, this playful awakening retreat, he has prompted many of you to look at this, but there's a fear within your being that I'm not awake, or there's a fear of what will it be like to be as Christ. And some people are reluctant to make that movement because they feel unworthy to come play as who you are. I mean, it's funny how the thinker talks us out of going to the place where the truth is. So anyway, he assures you that if he's prompted you to look, there's a place there for you, because you're never making those movements on your own. But October 3rd through 6th in Black Mountain, Cindy was over there today checking that out. It's a nice space. And there are flyers on the other side of the fireplace, and it's on the website too. Thank you for the reminder, Lucia.